Hi there, everybody. Welcome to our open book. Very good to be with you. If you notice a previous message, we sent out an X, which has since been deleted. We got some signals crossed with a great poet. They will be back. But I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity tonight. Hi there, Lee McWilliams. Hi there, also Elise, William Strauss, S.R. O'Brien, Jeremy Sicking. Good to see all of those names popping up. Good to be with you all. I'm going to read from the opening. This is the 50th anniversary edition. It's much older now. Nelson Algren's great, The Man with the Golden Arm. The music and the poetry of this novel, set in what I will just refer to as often depressed circumstances, is extraordinary. And I've been doing a little reading on some of these circumstances recently. So let me just begin. I'm going to begin by reading about Captain Bednar, who begins the novel, and then I will ultimately read about Frankie Machine, the dealer. Here's the open. The captain never drank. Yet toward nightfall in that smoke-colored season between Indian summer and December's first true snow, he would sometimes feel half drunken. He would hang his coat neatly over the back of his chair in the leaden station house twilight, say he was beat from lack of sleep, and lay his head across his arms upon the query room desk. Yet it wasn't work that wearied him. Yet it wasn't work that wearied him so, and his sleep was harassed by more than a smoke-colored rain. The city had filled him with the guilt of others. He was numbed by his charge sheet's accusations. For 20 years, upon the same scarred desk, he had been recording larceny and arson, sodomy and simony. I'm not sure what simony is.
I'm not sure either, but
Oh, well.
it better not be something bad.
Yeah, exactly.
And Simon is in the name.
Could you look that up?
Of course.
Yeah. Let's get this nailed down. Yeah, it's not
Having
good.
too much of the Simons?
Having too much of the Simons. Well,
simony is the act of buying, selling, or exchanging spiritual benefits, church offices, sacraments, or other sacred things for money or other temporal advantages.
Sounds like something an ancestor did. Yeah, all right.
Named after Simon Magus, who attempted to purchase the ability to give the Holy Spirit from the apostles.
Why am I just
It was a prevalent issue in the medieval church. Anyway.
All right. Listen to the way Nelson Algren recites this. For 20 years, upon the same scarred desk, he'd been recording larceny and arson, sodomy and simony, boosting, hijacking, and shootings in sudden affray, blackmail and terrorism, incest and pauperism, embezzlement and horse theft, tampering and procuring, abduction and quackery, adultery and mackery. Till the finger of guilt, pointing so sternly for so long across the query room blotter, had grown bored with it all at last and turned capriciously to touch the fibers of the dark gray muscle behind the captain's light gray eyes. So that though by daylight he remained the purser, there had come nights, the windless first week of December, when he had dreamed that he was being pursued. Long ago, some station house stray had nicknamed him Record Head, to re-honor the retentiveness of his memory for forgotten misdemeanors. Now drawing close to his pension years, he was referred to as Captain Bednar, only officially. I'm going to read about Frankie the Machine. Ready? The tranquil, scared-faced, shag-headed little buffalo-eyed blonde called Frankie Machine, and the ruffled, jittery punk called Sparrow, felt they were about as sharp as the next pair of hustlers. These walls that had held them both before had never held either long there in jail. Soul on the wrist, and I got the touch. Frankie was fond of boasting of his nerveless hands and steady eye. I never get nowheres, but I pay my own fare all the way. Frankie was a regular. I'm a little off balance, Sparrow would tip the wink in that rasping whisper you could hear for half a city block, but only on one side, so don't try off-steering me. You might be trying my good balance side, in which case I'd have to have the ward super deport you with your top teeth kicked out. This was in a poker game. Or dice. For being a regular got you in about as often as being off-balanced on one side. That was the way they were because that's how things had always been. Which is why there never could be any different things. Neither God, war, nor the ward super work any deep changes on West Division Street. For here God and the ward super work hand in hand, and neither moves without the other's assent. God loaned the super cunning and the super forwards a percentage of the grift on Sunday mornings. The super puts in the fix for all right-thinking hustlers, and the Lord, in turn, puts in the fix for the super. For the super's God is a hustler's God, and as wise in his way as the God of the priests and the businessmen. The hustler's Lord, too, protects his own. Super has been in office 14 years without having a single bookie door nailed shut in his territory, at least without his personal consent. No man can manage that without the help of heaven and the city's finest precinct captains. Are parts of the Democratic Party in Chicago still. What are you going to do for Dunavaca? After what Dunavaca done for you, the captains still sing together at ward meetings. Are you going to carry the precinct? Are you going to be true blue? Offhand, it might appear to be a policeman's God who protects the super's boys. Yet 100 patrolmen, wagon men, and soft-clothes aces have come or gone their appointed way. While the super hustlers linger on year after year, hustling the same scarred doors. They're in the hands of the chief hustler. They have been chosen. All the hustlers' God watched over Frankie Machine, too. He marked Sparrow's occasional fall. He saw that both boys worked for Giro Shafweka by night, while the super himself gave them hot tips every day. The only thing that kept the super's God, nor the super was wise to, was the hypo that Frankie kept, among other souvenirs, at the bottom of a faded duffel bag in another veteran's room. The barrel of a German Mauser and a rusting crouch sword leaned out of his bag against the wall. We all leave something of ourselves in other veterans' rooms. We all keep certain souvenirs. Of course, written right after World War II. Sparrow himself had only the faintest sort of inkling that Frankie had brought home a duffel bag full of trouble. The little petty larceny punk from Damon and Division and the dealer still got along like a couple of playful pups. He's like me, Frankie explained. He never drinks. Unless he's alone or with somebody. I don't mind Frankie pretending my neck is a pipe now and then, the child from nowhere admitted, but I don't like no Cupper John to pretend that way. No matter how Frankie shoved him around, the punk never forgot who protected him nightly. Their friendship had kindled on a winter night 2 years before Pearl Harbor when Sparrow had first drifted with that lost year's first snow out of a lightless snow-banked alley into a littered and lighted street.
I like this.
That phrasing, littered and lighted street. Frankie had found him huddled under a heap of racing forms in the woodshed behind Schwefferka's after the night's last deck had been boxed. They're playing cards that night. What you got up under there, Frankie wanted to know. Battered shoes protruding from the scattered forms, for this was the place where Schwefferka, urged by some inner insecurity, pulled dated racing sheets. He never had it in him to throw a sheet away, pretending to himself that he was filing them here against a day when age would lend them value, as age had in no way increased his own. Frankie used them on the sly for starting his furnace. But he advised the shoes severely. Don't you know this is Schwefferke's film cabinet? The Sparrow sat up, groping blindly for his glasses gone astray somewhere among the frayed papers below his head. I'm a lost dog finder, he explained quickly, experience having taught him that all strangers, the moment one started questioning, that he was regularly employed. I know the racket, Frankie warned him, trying to sound like a private eye, but there ain't no strays to steal in here. You trying to steal wood? Frankie had been stealing an armload of kindling every weekday morning for almost 2 months. He didn't need any help. It's a literary shirt, Sean, New York Nights. Kind of related to Robert Redford, who I'm writing about in the essay, because he, of course, starred in The Natural.
As you may have noticed, Scott has a vast collection.
I have a collection. I wouldn't say vast. I got no place to sleep, dealer, Sparrow had confessed. My landlady got me locked out since the week before Christmas. I've been staring for Schwefferke all day, and he told me I could sleep in here, but he ain't paid me a crying dime, so it's like I paid my way in. Hey, dealer, it's too cold to steal hounds. They're all inside the houses. Some nights it gets so cold I wish I was inside a house, too. Frankie studied the shivering punk. Don't shake, he commanded. When you get the shakes in my business, you're through. Steady hand and steady eye. That's what does it. He handed him $50. Here, get a double case of pneumonia sleeping in here. Get a room by the Kosciuszko Hotel. Next time Zero don't pay you off, you come tell Frankie Machine. That's me. The kid with the golden arm. He paused to brush back the shaggy mop of dark blonde hair under his cap, squinting a bit with the weak right eye. It's all in the wrist. And I got the touch, dice and stutter with a cue. I even beat the tubs a little, 'cause that's in the wrist, too. Here, pick a card. Cold as he was, the punk had to pick a card. During lonely months with Frankie overseas and Schwefke trying to deal his own game Sparrow alone, of that whole semicircle of 4 Fs, from blind pig to drunk Johnny, had remembered that golden arm. I'd be over there with the dealer right now, Sparrow had mournfully, quietly said to himself, if I just hadn't been turned down for admitting I'm stealing for a living. Sophia, everything all right, darling? Frankie could never acknowledge that he squinted a bit. If anything was wrong with my peepers, the army wouldn't have took me, he argued. And the hand is quicker than the eye, and I got a very naked eye. Yet he sometimes failed to see a thing directly beneath the very same naked eye. Where's the bag, he would ask. Under your nose, dealer, someone would point out. Well, there's supposed to be 6 buckets in that bag, he'd explained, if that somehow weren't why I'd seen it right away. He squinted a bit now in the cell's dim lights with the ever-present deck in his hand. I can control 21 cards, he boasted. If you don't believe me, put your money where your mouth is. I'll deal 6 hands and call everyone in the dark. Name your hand. You want 3 kings? Okay, here we go. You get what you ask for. But watch out, punk. The hand beside you is flushing that bird with nothing but an ace showing is going to cop with 3 concealed bullets. And that's how it would be whether he was showing off in a cell or in the back booth of Antiquity's Tug and Maul bar. I'll give a man a square shake till he tries a fast one or talks back to me, he warned the punk. When I go after a wise guy, I don't care who he is, how much he's holding. He was the only hustler on Division Street who still believed there was anything tough about Frankie Machine. What you got to realize is dealing stud is just like a drill in the army. The dealer, he's the drill sergeant. Everybody's got to be in step or stay on their toes. There can be no back talk, and you got no harmony left. I'm good with the cue because that's in the wrist too. I used to get 15 fish for an exhibition of a 6-no count. They never put my picture on the wall, but I lived off the stick 3 months all the same when the heat was on. And that's more than a lot of hustlers can say. I'm going to stop there. It's an extraordinary novel, and it's very sad. People with a collection of talents, aspirations.
Will you show the cover?
Yeah. This is, there are, somewhere around here, I think we have one of the first editions, but this is 50th anniversary. Seven Stories Press. Wow. Pinot Noir. Yeah. But he was a wonderful craftsman. May I tell the story about meeting him?
Of course.
Knock on his door. I forget what the occasion was. Nelson Algren comes to his apartment door. And I'm, gee, Mr. Algren, sorry, I would have called, but Studs Terkel said even he didn't have your phone number. Nelson Algren said, give Studs Terkel your fucking phone number. Every fucking jagoff in the fucking world will be fucking calling me. And I said I wanted to interview him for a story. I think it might have been the anniversary of Man in the Golden Arm. He said, yeah, want some coffee? So I came in. In those days, they had these International House powdered coffees. Do they still have them? They're pure powder, flavored powder and stuff. Sure, Mr. Algren. Nelson Algren picked up an ashtray he'd been using. He took a kind of wet paper towel from his kitchen. He wiped it out. Put a tablespoonful of the International coffee, whatever it was, in there, poured hot water over, stirred it, and handed it to me. I sipped it. You know what I said? Great coffee, Mr. Algren. And upstairs here we have 2 copies of Chicago City on the Make that he signed for me with very personal inscriptions.
The man who drank my coffee.
This is the man who drank my coffee. I couldn't believe it. And, like a couple of years later, God bless him, he died. And they had a memorial at the Second City in Chicago. And Stud said, I got to tell him that story. I said, even the part about him. He said, especially the part about me. So that's what I did. So thanks for being with us tonight on our open book. Well. Tomorrow, yeah, I hope they served coffee. Yeah. Another thing. So we talked to David McCullough's daughter today. We're going to be having an interview with her and John Meacham about the book from which we read, Collected Thoughts from David McCullough. Talked about his standard typewriter. I saw Nelson Algren's typewriter. I said, wow, is this the typewriter on which you wrote Man with the Golden Arm and Chicago City on the Make? And he told me that years before, and my memory of the numbers might be a little off, but man came to him, said, Mr. Algren, I am prepared to pay you $1,000 if you'll give me the typewriter on which you wrote The Man with the Golden Hour. And Nelson Algren said, come back and see me Monday. You can see where this is going. Sunday, he went out to the Halsted Street Market in Chicago and brought back 3 typewriters. Sold them each for, I think actually the price got up to $2,000 by the time of the third one. God knows where they are today. Oh, my word. So, in any event, thanks for being
A
with
writer has to make a living.
A writer has to make a living. Yeah, absolutely. By the way, my typewriters are not for sale. Just want that understood. Not to compare myself to Nelson Algren. So thanks very much for being with us. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.